Anushka and this is my website on happiness and mental health. So, first of all, what is happiness? Happiness is not about getting everything you want. It's not about being rich or affording. Happiness is about how good you feel on a day-to-day basis and how satisfied you are with your life. Here's a quote by John Lennon. When I went to school, they asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up. I wrote down happy. They told me I didn't understand the assignment. I told them that they didn't understand life. Next, we're going to talk about positive psychology. So, what is positive psychology? Positive psychology is a very interesting topic because for years, scientists have been studying what makes a human depressed or sad. But recently, they've turned the tables and now they're focusing on what makes a human happy and what happens when they are happy. So, there are 6 important key factors about being happy. Those 6 key factors are gratitude, kindness, playing, connecting with your community, getting in the flow, and trying something new. Showing gratitude is important because it helps you focus on things you have rather than focusing on things you don't have. Being kind is important because it helps you with your self-acceptance and it also makes you feel like you're taking part in something bigger than yourself. Because when you're kind to someone, if you say something to another person, then you're making the other person happy, not yourself. Playing. Playing is an important factor to happiness because it adds laughter in your life. It also helps you get through stress, struggle, and worry. Connecting with your community. Connecting with your community is a really important thing because it helps you with your social skills. And for young people, it also helps with an academic boost. Now, getting in the flow. Getting in the flow is when you do an activity in which you lose yourself and the world around you. For example, flow for me is singing. When I sing, I know the words. And I know the words and I'm lost in the music. I don't know what's around me. I lose myself and the world around me. This could help in a day when I'm dealing with something challenging. So my mind is just focusing on my flow and it gets me off that problem for a little while. Trying something new. Trying something new is really important too because it develops your knowledge and skills and you know the world around you better. Now, what makes you happy? What makes you happy? Happiness is actually, there's a chart about happiness as you can see here. As you can see, 50% of our happiness comes from our genes. And that doesn't mean that if your ancestors were not that happy, you're not a happy person, you're a really sad person. It doesn't mean that. It means your base point of your happiness is based on your genes. So if you're really happy, then you're going to return to that base point after some time. And if you're really sad, then you're going to return to that base point after some time. Actually, when someone asks you, how are you? And you say, I'm okay, you're not ecstatic, but you're not really sad either. You're in the middle. In the middle is your base point, your genetic base point. And then 40% of our happiness comes with our intentional behaviors. Intentional behaviors meaning things we mean to do, like riding a bike, singing, being kind, and things like that. Those count as 40% of our happiness. And interestingly, only 10% of our happiness is based on circumstances. Circumstances meaning your image, your popularity, your money, and your health even, they only count to 10% of your happiness. So when people say, if you have a lot of money, then you're gonna be the happiest person on earth, that's not true. Now, intrinsic and extrinsic goals. Intrinsic goals are goals that focus on you. They focus on your personal development, your personal growth, and it also helps with it's based on your desire to help and your relationship with others, your relationship with your friends, your families, and others. And these things help with your long-term happiness. Now, extrinsic goals, on the other hand, are goals that you think are gonna make you happy when they come. So, for example, money. As we talked before, that it's wrong when people say that if you have a lot of money, then you live a better life and you're happier. So money actually adds to your short-term happiness. Actually, fun fact, it's been researchers have said that people who even win the lottery are only happy till 6 months. 6 months for a lottery is a short term. Now, short-term and long-term happiness. Now, if an event happens and it affects you with your happiness but not for a long time, then it's a short-term happiness. For example, going to a movie. When you go to a movie, you're really happy maybe the day before you're going to that movie. And you're happy while you're watching that movie, but the next day all you'll be left is with happy memories, not with that true feeling inside you. Now, long-term happiness, on the other hand, is caused when an event happens and it makes you happy for a long time. An example is finding love. When you find love, you're really happy to have it the next day. You're happy to have it the next month and even the next year. So short-term happiness affects you for a short amount of time, and long-term happiness affects you for a long amount of time. Now, adversities. Adversities are challenges in your life, and no one has ever lived a life without adversities. So what matters in happiness and related to adversity is that if you recover from adversities quicker, then you are a happier person. And if you don't, then you're not as happy as you can be. For example, say you fail a test or get really bad marks on it. If you are grieving over it for a really long amount of time, then you're not exactly a happy person. But if you have the same scenario, but you accept it and move on, then you're dealing better with that adversity, making you a happier person. And research has also shown that people who deal with adversities come out of the adversities as happier people. This doesn't mean that adversities don't affect happy people. Of course they do. Adversities affect everyone. But what matters is that happier people get out of the adversity soon. They deal with it quicker and they recover from it quicker. Next, we're going to talk about values. Now, values. What are they? So values are the standards by which you act and you judge your behavior and others' behaviors as well. So, and if you have any challenging times, then values are the things you're going to use to get out of it or overcome it. For example, my values are honesty, friendship, perseverance, education, and integrity. So these are my values, and when I have a tough or difficult time, then these are the things I'm going to use to get out of it. And if I break one of these values, then I'm not going to feel really good. For example, I remember this time, me and my friend were talking and I lied to her. I didn't feel good after lying. Why? Because I broke two of my values. And my values that I broke were honesty and friendship. I lied to her, and I was not being honest. And that might affect our friendship, and I was risking our friendship. So I broke that value as well. Next, we're going to talk about karoshi. So karoshi in Japanese means overwork, death. Now, Japan is a really developed country. But people in Japan work long hours and they have so much stress. They faint on streets, they die on streets. In a documentary that we watched called Happy, it was said that by a worker that his work is more important than his family, which is not true, because this happened because the people in Japan are taught a value and they follow it. They don't make values and follow it. They're taught a value and they follow it. And the value that they're taught is work. If they work harder, then they'll make more money and they'll be more happier, which is not the case as we discussed earlier. So that's what happens when you don't have your own values. Now, focusing on our values. Opposite to Japan, other countries are trying something different. Instead of seeing their progress as a country by their economy, Bhutan is marking their progression by how happy their people are, or gross national happiness. So people in Bhutan are happy because they practice their culture, their traditions, and learn to recognize their values. Another example of a happy country is Denmark. Denmark is voted the happiest place on earth. Why? Because they have communities, and they really value their communities. Half of Denmark's populations live in co-houses. In co-houses, they talk to each other, they help each other, they share their chores, they think they're part of something greater than themselves. And this act of connecting with their community is one of the reasons they're happy, because connecting with their community is one of their values. The social side of happiness. Competition versus cooperation. By nature, us human beings are very cooperative creatures, but our fast, complex moving life has because of our fast, complex moving life, we're told that to move forward in life, we need to be competitive. Being competitive will get you far in life, but not that far. Being competitive can help you in some cases, but it won't help you in all cases. Being cooperative is in our nature since birth. We want to be cooperative because wherever we go, we're going to need that cooperation. Cooperation will get us further than competition. Why? Because wherever we go, if I go to school, I need to be cooperative with my peers to actually develop a better me. If I go to work, I would get fired if I'm not cooperative and I'm always competitive. They won't like that nature. Wherever you go in the world, you need to be cooperative to get to know the people around you, to get to know your surroundings. And when we socialize, then we create a neurotransmitter in our brain called dopamine. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter in our brain, like I said earlier, and it helps us feel pleasure. But like all things, dopamine run out of function after some times, but we don't want that. We want to create more dopamine so we can be happier. If we're happier, then we have a better life. Now, dopamine always looks for new things. Dopamine is created when we do new things. So socializing can help us create more dopamine because we're doing a new thing. Now, you might think that if I talk to the same person yesterday and today, I'm not really doing anything new. But that's not the truth. Yes, you're talking to the same person. You're not talking to a new person, but you're talking about new things. Yesterday, I might have talked about our homework. Today, I might have talked about another thing, about having fun or something. So that's how happiness and community connects, because the more you're connecting with your community, the more new things you're saying and trying, and the more dopamine you're creating, and the more happy you are. Practicing happiness. Now, just because you know all about positive psychology, dopamine, social skills, doesn't mean you're a happier person you were than you were at the beginning of the presentation. So to be happier, you actually need to practice all these things. So to practice, here's some ways you can practice some things that could lead you to happiness. You could practice gratitude. Practicing gratitude is not hard at all. All you need to say is thank you. Say thank you to everything. I say thank you to trees because they help us breathe. I say thank you to my family because they love me a lot. I say thank you to my friends because they're there to support me. I thank education. I thank everything. And that act of thanking is called gratitude. The more you express gratitude, the more happier you are because you're focusing on the things you have than the things you don't have. And everybody knows that if we don't have things and we focus on it, then we get jealous, and jealousy is not a happy feeling. Now, being kind. Being kind is a really simple thing. You could show kindness in smallest ways. You could help a person you could be kind to a person by letting them borrow your pencil for a test, or just giving them something small, like just being kind to them, just smiling at them, recognizing them as a human. Now, you also need to make values and actually follow them, because a great part of why we're happy is our intentional behavior, or how we act. And we act as we do because of our values. And if we don't know our values, then we don't know why we're sad, or what makes us sad, or what we need to follow. So if you have values, you know yourself better, and if you know yourself better, then you're happier. Connecting with your community. As we talked earlier with dopamine, dopamine makes us feel pleasure, and it's created when we try anything new. Talking to people is new, and the more we talk, the more dopamine is created, and the more happier we are. Gratitude. Now, what is gratitude? Gratitude comes from a Latin word, gratia. Gratia means grace, graciousness, or gratefulness. It is an act of giving thanks to the people around us, the nature around us, or everything around us. How does gratitude affect you? Gratitude affects you in many ways. According to positive psychology, it helps you feel more positive emotions. It helps you relish good experiences, and it helps you make stronger bonds with others. Now, practicing gratitude is an easy thing. Earlier I talked about just giving thanks to everything. Now, this is how I practice gratitude. What I do is that at the end of the day, I think about 3 things that I'm really grateful for throughout my day. That something that happened that I really am grateful for. Because, for example, if I'm having a bad day and going to sleep thinking my day was bad and my life is just not good and I wish I had someone else's life, opposite to that, if I go to sleep thinking there's so many things in my life that I'm so lucky to have, then that would make me a happier person. So I think about 3 things at night before I go to sleep, and I just think about 3 things, and here's the rule I created is that I'm not allowed to repeat anything 2 times. And the reason behind this is I'm always going to be grateful for my family, my friends, my education, but I can be grateful for the same 3 things over and over and over again, because that wouldn't give me a chance to recognize anything else. Like, say, the health department. Doctors, I'm very grateful for doctors, because without doctors, if we get sick, then we would have nowhere else to go. The fire department, the police department, they all keep us safe, and I'm really grateful that I have them. Now, here's some ways you can practice gratitude. So, there are 3 ways I'm going to tell you. First is writing a thank you note. You could just write a thank you note to someone, like dear the person's name. I'm really grateful to have you in my life because you helped me with this, and you helped me bring out the best in me. Giving this to the person, seeing the smile on their face will bring a smile on your face. Now, if you don't really have enough time to write a thank you letter or you're too lazy, you could easily just say thank you mentally like I do every night. And the last tip is that you could keep a happiness journal. A happiness journal it works the same way as I practice, except I don't think everything in my mind. You just write it in a journal. Maybe journal entries are good too. Maybe you could write about your whole day and focus on the good things, not the bad things. That could help you practice gratitude too. Because again, when you're practicing gratitude, you're focusing on things you have instead of the things you don't have. And focusing on things you have, it'll make you feel better, because when someone says, oh, I have this and I have this and I have this, you'll have things to say. I have this too, I have things too. And if you're not grateful, you don't recognize everything you have. And the person's going to be like, I have this, and you're going to be like, oh, I wish I had those things. That's not a positive emotion. Now, here's a video on how your happiness works and how gratitude affects your happiness.
Shut up.
What? Wait.
I was getting so embarrassed.
What makes you happy? Having fun? Hanging out with friends? Delicious food? Making money? Consider this. Psychologists have scientifically proven that one of the greatest contributing factors to overall happiness in your life is how much gratitude you show. Yeah? Think about that. Go ahead and marinate on it for a second. You can thank me later if you want. It'll make you feel better according to this study. You go ahead and click on it and read it if you want. Or you can keep watching, because we read it. We thought it might be fun to test out for ourselves. We gathered a selection of volunteers to act as our subjects. First, we gave them a test. They didn't know what we were looking for, but it gave us a pretty good idea of their current level of happiness. We asked them to close their eyes and think of somebody who was really influential in their life, somebody who did something really amazing or important for them. We had them write down as much as they could about why this person was so important. Now, a lot of them thought at this point the experiment was over, until we really put them on the spot and tried to get them to call that person and read what they wrote about them. Thank you, Jessica. Before we let them go, we gave our subjects one more happiness test. Now, we mixed up and rephrased the questions so they didn't know they were taking the same test twice. For those who took the time to actually write something down but couldn't make the phone call for whatever reason, we saw happiness increase between 2 and 4%. Good, but not exactly mind-blowing. Now, for those who actually picked up the phone and personally expressed their gratitude, we saw increases between 4 and 19%. So either way, expressing your gratitude will make you a happier person. But you want to know something really interesting? The person who experienced the biggest jump in happiness was the least happy person who walked in the door. What does that mean? That means if you're having a particularly tough time, trying this out will more likely have a greater impact on you. Trust me. I'm in a lab coat. In fact, while you're at it, film it and upload it to us. And we'll do something awesome with it. And this has been the Science of Happiness.
So, as we saw in this video, basically what there was an experiment held. The scientists said he called in a few people as the test subjects, and he asked them to give him an understanding of what their current level of happiness was. And after that, he asked them to think about a person who was really influential in their life and write down about them. Now, people thought that the test was done until the scientists said that call that person and read what you wrote about them. And after reading what they wrote about them, and telling that person, the scientists judged their happiness at the beginning and their happiness levels now, and the happiness actually increased by 2 to 4% for people who wrote the letter but were not able to make the phone call, which was like writing a thank you letter, but not giving it to that person, of course. And people who actually wrote and read to that person what they wrote about them, their happiness levels went from 4 to 19%, and that's a really good result, right? And they also discovered that when the most amount of happiness that someone experienced was the least happy person that walked in that door. So there you go. If you're feeling really bad on a particular day, then gratitude can help you feel better. And keep smiling, be happy.